I could feel the vibrations of the engines reverberating through the metal hull of our spacecraft as we descended onto the parched surface of Sandara. The land stretched out before us, an endless expanse of golden sand that shimmered under the harsh glare of the sun. This was no ordinary planet. It was a desolate world steeped in legends of an ancient labyrinth buried beneath its shifting sands. I could hardly contain my excitement as the ship's landing gear touched down, sending a plume of sand swirling into the air. "Welcome to Sandara," I exclaimed, unbuckling my seatbelt and standing up. I glanced over at my teammates, Anika and Klaus, who were busy checking their equipment. "Let's see if the legends are true." Klaus looked up, a smirk on his face. "Legends or not, I just hope we find something worth our time. All this for a fairy tale." "Fairy tales can lead to great discoveries," Anika replied, adjusting her goggles. She was always the one who believed in the possibilities, the one who saw the potential where others saw nothing. If the labyrinth exists, it could be a treasure trove of knowledge. I nodded, appreciating her enthusiasm. And who knows what kind of technology we might uncover. This could change everything. The thought sent a thrill down my spine. We stepped out of the spacecraft, the heat enveloping us like a thick blanket. The sun hung high in the sky, relentless and unforgiving. I could feel the sand beneath my boots shifting slightly, as if the ground itself was alive. It was both exhilarating and unnerving. "Let's set up the equipment," Klaus suggested, pulling out a series of devices from our packs. "We'll need to scan the area for any signs of the labyrinth." As we worked, I took a moment to survey our surroundings. The landscape was eerily quiet, save for the occasional rustle of the wind. "You ever wonder what happened to the civilization that built this labyrinth?" I asked, breaking the silence. "Maybe they fell victim to their own creations," Klaus mused, tapping away at his scanner. "Or perhaps they simply vanished, leaving their secrets behind." Anika frowned, lost in thought. "There are theories that suggest they harnessed a power they couldn't control. I hope we're not walking into a trap." I shrugged off her concern, eager to dive into the unknown. "We'll be careful. We're explorers, after all. It's our job to uncover the mysteries of the universe." With our equipment finally ready, we began our trek toward the area where the legends claimed the labyrinth lay hidden. The sand shifted beneath our feet, creating small dunes that seemed to change with every step we took. I glanced at Anika, who was leading the way, her instincts finely tuned to the environment around us. "Anika, are you sure we're going the right way?" Klaus asked, squinting against the bright sunlight. "Trust me," she replied, her voice steady. "I can feel it. The air is different here. There's something just beneath the surface." As we walked, the landscape began to shift more dramatically, walls of sand rising and falling like waves on a turbulent sea. I couldn't help but marvel at the dynamic nature of this place. It was as if the labyrinth was alive, responding to our presence. "Look there." I pointed to a series of patterns etched into a nearby rock. "Are those markings?" We approached the wall, and Anika reached out to touch the ancient symbols. "These look like they could be from an advanced civilization," she said, her eyes sparkling with awe. "This is incredible." Just then, the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the sand. An uneasy feeling settled in my stomach as I heard a low rumbling sound echo through the labyrinth. It was faint but unmistakable, the sound of something shifting in the distance. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my heart racing. Klaus exchanged a glance with Anika. "What if it's just the wind?" "I don't think so," Anika said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's almost as if something is watching us." A chill ran down my spine, but I shook it off. We were explorers, after all, and this was just the beginning of our adventure. Little did we know that what lay ahead would test not only our resolve but the very fabric of our friendship. As we stepped into the vast chamber, my breath hitched in my throat. The walls were lined with strange symbols, glowing faintly in a spectrum of colors that seemed to pulse with life. In the center of the room, the orb of energy dominated the space, a mesmerizing sphere that radiated an otherworldly light. It was unlike anything I had ever seen, a swirling mass of energy that seemed to breathe, drawing us closer even as a sense of foreboding washed over me. "Can you believe this?" Klaus whispered, his eyes wide with awe. "This is what we came for. The legendary power source. It's real." I exchanged a glance with Anika, who looked equally captivated but more cautious. "Klaus, We need to be careful. We don't know what this is capable of. Remember the stories about the guardians of the labyrinth. Klaus waved her off with a dismissive gesture, his gaze fixed on the orb. Come on, Anika. This could change everything for humanity. Think of the energy crisis we could solve. We have to harness this. I could feel the energy humming in the air, a tangible force that beckoned, yet a chill ran down my spine at Klaus's enthusiasm. But at what cost? I asked, my voice low. We have no idea what will happen if we disturb it. Ignoring my warning, Klaus stepped forward, entranced by the orb's glow. This is my destiny. He reached out, his fingers mere inches from the pulsating surface. I can feel it. It's calling to me. Stop. I shouted, fear gripping me as I lunged forward, but I was too late. The moment Klaus's fingers brushed against the orb, the chamber filled with a blinding light. The energy surged, and I felt a shock wave ripple through the air, pushing me back. The ground trembled beneath our feet, and the walls of the labyrinth began to shift violently. What's happening? Anika cried, trying to steady herself against the sudden chaos. Get back. I yelled, struggling to find my footing. The walls were closing in, grains of sand cascading down like a waterfall as the labyrinth reconfigured itself. We need to get out of here. Klaus, now completely consumed by the orb, appeared lost in a trance. His eyes glazed over as he mumbled words I couldn't quite understand. It's mine. Snap out of it, Klaus. Anika shouted, her voice rising above the noise. We need to escape before it's too late. But as the walls shifted, I felt a sudden separation. I was thrown to one side as Anika was pulled in another direction. Friedrich, she screamed, her voice echoing as the labyrinth swallowed her up. Anika. I shouted, but my voice was lost in the cacophony. The chamber was collapsing around me, the light from the orb flickering as if it too was struggling against the chaos. I turned to Klaus, who was still reaching for the orb, a look of wild determination on his face. Klaus, please. You have to let go. He didn't respond, his fingers hovering just above the surface of the orb, and I knew I was losing him. The labyrinth was alive, and it sensed the greed radiating from him. The walls twisted and turned, creating a maze out of the once open chamber, and I felt panic clawing at my chest. Friedrich. I heard Anika's voice again, faint but clear, coming from somewhere deeper within the maze. The sound fueled my resolve. I had to find her. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself against the shifting walls, and turned away from Klaus, moving toward the direction of Anika's voice. But the labyrinth was a treacherous creature, and as I navigated its sudden turns and dead ends, I could feel its presence watching, waiting. It was as if the very walls were alive, shifting with a purpose, and I was merely a pawn in a game I didn't yet understand. Anika. I called again, desperation creeping into my voice as the labyrinth closed around me, isolating me from the one person who could help me make sense of the chaos. I moved forward, heart pounding, praying I would find her before it was too late. The shifting sands whispered around me, as if teasing my fears, and I realized that I was not just navigating a maze of sand, I was navigating the very essence of the labyrinth itself. It was alive, and it had chosen to respond to Klaus's greed in a way I could never have anticipated. As I stumbled deeper into the labyrinth, my heart raced with desperation. The air was thick with an eerie silence, broken only by the whispers of the sand shifting around me. I had lost Anika and Klaus in the chaos, and now I was alone in this maze that felt like a living entity, breathing and watching. Legends had spoken of its sentience, and I could feel it, an unseen force guiding my way, or perhaps leading me astray. Where are you guys? I called out, my voice echoing down the endless corridors of sand. There was no answer, only the soft rustle of grains shifting underfoot. I pressed on, each step a reminder of how precarious our situation had become. The walls whispered secrets, but their language was foreign to me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being tested, like an intruder in a sacred space, unworthy of its secrets. Suddenly, I heard a faint sound, a voice. I rushed toward it, hope surging in my chest. As I turned a corner, I froze. There, hovering in the air, was a holographic projection of an ancient alien, its features sharp and regal. It looked at me with eyes that seemed to pierce through my very soul. Friedrich, it spoke, its voice echoing like thunder in the stillness. You are foolish to seek the power of the orb. It is not a tool for mankind, but a guardian of energy, bound to the essence of this labyrinth. What do you mean? I stammered, overwhelmed. We just wanted to help. To understand the technology. Understanding comes at a price, the hologram interrupted, its expression grave. The orb is a sentient being. It reacts to the intentions of those who approach it. Klaus is lost to its influence. He believes he can wield its power. But power corrupts, and he will be consumed if he continues. I felt a chill run down my spine. Klaus, once my friend, was now a pawn in this labyrinth's game. Where do I find him? I demanded, desperation clawing at my throat. I need to save him. Seek the heart of the labyrinth, the alien instructed, its form flickering. But know this, the labyrinth will test you. Only those pure of heart may pass unharmed. You must confront your own desires and fears. Pure of heart, I murmured, the weight of the words heavy on my shoulders. Did I even know what that meant anymore? I had come seeking glory, the thrill of discovery, and now I was faced with the consequences of my ambition. Go now, the hologram urged, fading slowly. Time is not on your side. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. I had no choice but to push forward. As I navigated the twisting paths, I recalled the legends, the stories of explorers who had entered the labyrinth, never to return. What had they faced? What trials had the maze imposed on them? A sudden gust of wind rattled the walls around me, sending a cascade of sand spilling from above. I ducked instinctively, aware that the labyrinth was alive, shifting in response to my presence. Come on, Klaus, I whispered to myself, where are you? After what felt like hours of wandering, I found myself in a vast chamber. The walls glimmered with ancient symbols that pulsed with a blue light. It felt like a heartbeat, strong and steady. In the center of the room lay the orb, glowing with an intensity that almost hurt to look at. I approached it cautiously, my heart racing with a mix of fear and curiosity. Klaus. I shouted, hoping my voice would reach him. If you can hear me, I'm here. We need to get out of here. The orb pulsed in response, and I could feel a shift in the air. It was as if the labyrinth held its breath, waiting for my next move. I could sense the power radiating from the orb, an intoxicating energy that beckoned me closer. But I remembered the warning. The orb was not a mere object, it was alive. Friedrich, a voice called from behind me. I turned, my heart leaping. It was Anika, her expression a mix of relief and fear. We have to find Klaus before it's too late. He's dangerous now, he's under its influence, I finished, understanding dawning on me. We can't let him harness that power. We need to stop him. As we stood there, the labyrinth continued to shift, the walls closing in as if it were responding to our urgency. I could feel the tension building, a storm of energy swirling around us. We had to act quickly. With determination, we moved forward, our thoughts focused on our lost companion and the darkness threatening to consume him. I stumbled through the winding passages of the labyrinth, the walls of shifting sand closing in around me. My heart raced as I thought of Klaus and Anika. I had to find them. The oppressive heat of Sandara was nothing compared to the weight of dread I felt, knowing that Klaus was lost to the orb's power. It was as if the labyrinth itself was breathing, alive and aware, sensing my fear. Anika! I shouted, my voice echoing through the dark corridors. I hoped she could hear me, that she was still safe somewhere within this cursed maze. The silence that answered me was deafening, broken only by the occasional shifting of sand. I paused for a moment to catch my breath, leaning against a wall that felt strangely warm. It was as if the labyrinth was alive, its heartbeat resonating through my body. Suddenly, I heard a faint sound, a voice. Friedrich. It was Anika. Relief washed over me, and I followed the sound, navigating through the maze of ever-changing paths. When I finally found her, Anika was leaning against a wall, her face pale but determined. Friedrich, you're here. She rushed to me, and we embraced tightly, the bond between us stronger than ever despite the chaos surrounding us. I was so worried, I said, pulling back to look into her eyes. Have you seen Klaus? She shook her head, her expression darkening. He's changed, Friedrich. The orb, it's corrupted him. We need to stop him before he does something irreversible. I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. We have to understand what this labyrinth truly is. It's more than just a maze. It's a guardian of knowledge, and Klaus is trying to wield that knowledge without understanding it. Exactly. We need to find the central chamber, Anika replied, her eyes narrowing with resolve. If we can uncover the labyrinth's secrets, maybe we can reach him. Let's move then, I said, taking the lead. We navigated deeper into the labyrinth, the sand shifting beneath our feet as if the walls were watching our every move. The air grew cooler, filled with an eerie stillness that felt almost sacred. As we turned a corner, we stumbled into a vast chamber, illuminated by a soft, pulsing light. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings, depicting scenes of an ancient civilization, ones that had thrived here long before us. I could feel the weight of history pressing down on us. What is this place? I whispered, awestruck. Anika stepped closer to the carvings, tracing her fingers over the alien symbols. This must be the heart of the labyrinth. Look, Friedrich. These markings tell a story. We studied the carvings together. They spoke of a time when the labyrinth was a sanctuary of knowledge, a place where wisdom was revered and shared. But as the power of the orb grew, so did the greed of those who sought it. The labyrinth shifted from a sanctuary to a trap, ensnaring those who sought power without wisdom. This is why Klaus is in danger, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He's become what these ancient beings warned against. Anika nodded gravely. We need to save him, but we must be careful. The labyrinth won't let us approach him without consequences. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the chamber, and the walls began to tremble. Klaus! I shouted, realizing he was close. The labyrinth was reacting to his presence, shifting violently as if it were trying to expel him. Stay close. Anika urged, grabbing my hand. We rushed towards the sound, the walls shifting ominously around us. The air crackled with energy, and I felt a sense of urgency flooding my veins. As we approached a massive archway, I caught sight of Klaus standing in the center of the chamber, surrounded by tendrils of dark energy. His eyes glowed unnaturally, a reflection of the orb's power coursing through him. Friedrich! Anika! He boomed, his voice echoing with a strange resonance. Join me. Together, we can control this labyrinth. No, Klaus. I shouted back, my voice filled with desperation. This power is corrupting you. You don't understand what you're doing. He laughed, a sound that sent chills down my spine. You're too late. I can feel the power coursing through me. I am its master now. Anika stepped forward, her voice steady despite the chaos. Klaus, this power is not meant to be wielded by someone who doesn't understand its purpose. The labyrinth is alive, and it will consume you if you let it. For a moment, uncertainty flickered in his eyes, but then he shook his head, dismissing us. You're wrong. I will not be a pawn in this game any longer. The labyrinth roared in response, the walls shifting violently as if in agreement with Klaus's rage. Anika and I exchanged worried glances, knowing we were running out of time. We had to act, but how could we reach him when the very structure of the labyrinth was against us? Anika, we need a plan, I said, feeling the tension in the air grow thick. We had to find a way to bring Klaus back from the brink before it was too late. I stood there, heart racing, as Klaus unleashed his fury upon us. The walls of the labyrinth trembled violently, a cacophony of grinding stone and shifting sand echoing in my ears. Anika's eyes were wide with fear, yet there was a flicker of determination in her gaze. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on us like the very sands that surrounded us. Klaus, this isn't you. I shouted, my voice barely cutting through the chaos. We came here together. We're a team. He stood at the center of the chamber, pulsing with dark energy, the orb behind him casting an eerie glow that painted his face in shades of red and green. You don't understand, Friedrich. This power is beyond anything we ever dreamed of. We could reshape the universe. I could reshape it. His voice cracked, caught between desperation and madness. Power like this isn't meant to be wielded by just anyone. Anika interjected, stepping forward. Can't you see? The labyrinth is alive. It's reacting to your anger, your greed. You're not in control. Klaus laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in the chamber as the walls trembled ominously. Control? You think I'm not in control? This is only the beginning. He raised his hand, and with a flick of his wrist, the labyrinth responded violently, the walls shifting to close in on us, squeezing the very air from my lungs.
Friedrich.
Anika gasped as the ground beneath us began to shift. We need to do something. My mind raced. I glanced at Anika, remembering the ancient markings we'd seen earlier, the warnings about the labyrinth's sentience. We have to reach the heart of the labyrinth. It may still recognize us. I shouted over the chaos, gripping her arm tightly. Are you insane? It's trying to bury us alive, she retorted, fear lacing her voice. No. It's reacting to Klaus's rage. If we can show it our intentions, maybe it will listen. I replied, my conviction growing as I spoke. Together, we can reach the core and communicate with it. With a determined nod, Anika and I began to push toward the shifting walls. The ground quaked beneath us, and the walls twisted, narrowing the passageway. I could feel the heat of Klaus's power radiating behind us, a dark storm brewing.
Friedrich. Anika.
Klaus's voice was a roar, filled with fury and desperation. You think you can run? You think you can hide? I will have this power. We pressed on, adrenaline surging through my veins.
Klaus, listen.
I shouted, my voice strong despite the fear clawing at my insides. You're not a monster. You're our friend. Remember the mission? The bond we have? We came to explore, not to conquer. Anika's eyes shimmered with tears as she called out, Klaus, please. This isn't who you are. We can help you. Let us help you. But Klaus only laughed again, the sound twisted and broken, echoing off the walls that seemed to pulse with his madness. Help me? You're too late. The labyrinth is mine now. Desperation clawed at my heart as I felt the walls closing in, threatening to crush us. Anika, we have to try. I urged her, my breath coming in ragged gasps. You're the one who understands this technology. Can you reach out to it? She hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath, her face set in determination. All right, I'll try, she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos.
Labyrinth.
Hear me. We come in peace. We seek understanding, not destruction. Please, listen to our intentions. As she spoke, I could feel the labyrinth reacting, the walls quaking as if deliberating. I watched as the very sand around us began to swirl, shifting in patterns that felt almost sentient. Anika, keep going. I urged her, my heart pounding wildly in my chest. Labyrinth, we honor your existence. We respect your power. We do not wish to harm you or your secrets. Anika cried, her voice shaking but resolute. We are explorers, not conquerors. Suddenly, a powerful tremor coursed through the ground, and I felt the air shift around us. The labyrinth was listening, caught between our plea and Klaus's rage. The walls trembled but didn't close in completely, giving us a fleeting hope amidst the chaos.
Klaus.
I shouted, hoping to reach him one last time. You have to fight this. You can't let it consume you. His expression faltered for a moment, a flicker of the man I once knew flashing in his eyes. Friedrich, he whispered, but the darkness quickly reclaimed him, the orb behind him pulsating violently. Please. I yelled, desperation clawing at me. Choose who you want to be. As the labyrinth began to shift around us, I could feel the air thicken with tension. Anika's voice broke through the chaos that surrounded us. Friedrich, we have to move. The labyrinth is reacting to Klaus's rage. I nodded, not needing to articulate my thoughts. We had to take advantage of the chaos, but my heart raced with the fear of what we might lose. The walls of sand seemed to swirl, coiling around Klaus like serpents. I could see his face contort with confusion and anger as the labyrinth responded to his dark intentions. No, this can't be happening, he screamed, his voice echoing in the vastness. You don't understand. I can control it. I exchanged a glance with Anika, knowing we had to act fast. Klaus, listen to us. I shouted over the roar of the shifting sands. This isn't power you can control. You're just feeding the labyrinth's dark side. But my words fell on deaf ears. Klaus was too consumed by his own ambition, too entranced by the energy that had seduced him. Suddenly, the labyrinth shifted violently, and I felt a surge of wind as sand swept past us. I grabbed Anika's arm, pulling her close as the walls closed in around Klaus. We have to go now, I urged, our escape path opening just a few steps away from the whirlwind consuming him.
Friedrich, help me.
Klaus's voice was frantic, desperate. But I couldn't let his cries sway me. I could see the shadows of the labyrinth swirling around him, devouring his form. Annika squeezed my hand, her eyes wide with horror and pity. "He's lost, isn't he?" she whispered, and I nodded, my throat tight. Together, we sprinted toward the maze's exit, the sand shifting beneath our feet. I could hear Klaus's panicked shouts fading into the distance as the labyrinth chose its protector. "It's over, Klaus." I called back, my voice trembling with the weight of what we were leaving behind. The labyrinth sealed itself with a final rush of sand, and I dared to look back one last time. All that remained was a swirling mass of golden grains, the echo of Klaus's desperation swallowed by the ancient maze. We were free, but at what cost? Emerging into the light outside the labyrinth, my breath came in ragged gasps. The sun's harsh rays felt almost foreign after the dark confines of the maze. Annika and I stood in silence, the reality of our situation crashing over us like a wave. We had lost Klaus, not just as a team member, but as a friend. Could we ever forgive ourselves for what happened? "Friedrich," Annika finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do we do now?" I looked around, taking in the vast expanse of Sandara's desolate landscape. "We have to protect what we've found." The orb, it's stabilized now. I gestured toward the shimmering light emanating from the heart of the labyrinth, now calm and inviting. "It's not just a source of power, it's a responsibility." Annika nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. "We can't let someone else misuse it the way Klaus tried to. It's not just energy, it's a part of this place's history." Together, we made our way toward the orb, its pulsating glow casting an ethereal light on our faces. The labyrinth had chosen us as its new guardians, a role neither of us had anticipated, but one we would embrace with the lessons learned from our harrowing journey. "We'll need to study it, understand it," I said, the weight of duty settling on my shoulders. "We must ensure that this knowledge is used wisely and never again falls into the wrong hands." "Agreed," Annika replied, determination igniting in her eyes. "This labyrinth holds secrets that could change everything. We owe it to Klaus, and to ourselves, to make sure it's protected." As we stood before the orb, I felt a sense of purpose wash over me. We would honor our friend's memory by ensuring that the darkness he succumbed to would never threaten anyone again. With newfound resolve, Annika and I stepped forward, ready to embrace our fate as the guardians of Sandara's secrets.